Welcome to Kangaroos, the podcast, where we want you to serve your clients instead of fretting over your socials. Rachel, good morning. Happy Wednesday morning.
Happy Wednesday, or whatever
Rachel,
day you're listening.
We have a special guest this week.
We do. Bryan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
We had to have him clarify how to say his last name, but he says it's Doleshel, right?
Very good. Very good. It's not fancy.
Don't sell yourself short.
So, Bryan, in prep for this, you are part of the Williamson County Chamber of Commerce, but on your bio, I found it wildly interesting that you have a Christmas tree farm, or you grew up on a Christmas tree farm.
I did.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my family owned a Christmas tree farm in the Seattle area, and it was kind of before what they would call agro-tourism now was popular. And so we had a farm that had about 15,000 Christmas trees, and you would come out there with your family and pick out your tree and cut it down. And we had my dad created more of like an experiential farm. And so we actually rented reindeer from a farm in Oregon. So we had live reindeer on our farm. So, kids, that was a big thing, the big draw for kids to come out and get to see reindeer and cut their tree down. So yeah, that was a random piece of my childhood that I with.
I'm picturing,
fun.
Christmas vacation, driving to find the tree.
Yeah, you could say that. Our farm motto was, "A real Christmas deserves a real tree," and ironically, now I have an artificial tree.
You're like, I'm tired of picking up needles all year round.
Yeah, we're done with that.
Yeah.
Bryan, you are the Chief Community Development Officer. Will you explain a little bit what you do for Williamson County?
Sure. The Williamson County, the Chamber of Commerce, we're not only the Chamber of Commerce, but we're the Office of Economic Development for the county. And I oversee specifically the Chamber of Commerce side. And, my role is really to know people and to know businesses and to connect people. We want to keep business in Williamson County, and we want to connect those that want to do business with other business leaders in Williamson County. So it feels a little silly some days that, my job is just to be out and about and attend different events and things for us, but also for other organizations, and get to know what businesses are in our county so that we know how to connect them better.
That sounds like a fun job. I don't think it sounds silly. I think it sounds great.
No, it's super. It's super fun. Like we do a bunch of ribbon cuttings for new businesses that have opened, and, just to be able to experience all these different industries. I'm kind of one of those that's like, I walk into a school and I want to be a teacher. I go to the fire department, I want to be a firefighter. So everything kind of appeals to me. So it's really fun to, be able to experience different businesses and learn what they're doing. And it's pretty amazing what we have here in Williamson County.
Yeah.
You and me both, man. I'm like
every
that.
day is different. That's fun. It's not all the same.
Yeah. Right.
Love it. Well, we typically start our podcast with a question of the day. So get ready. We'll let you answer first. Christmas Eve or Christmas morning? Which one's better?
Oh, wow. Well, I would say, going back to growing up on a Christmas tree farm, we were open from Thanksgiving Day until Christmas Day. So, and we lived on the farm. So it was kind of like all hands on deck. We employed a bunch of people, and it was busy. So I would say, Christmas Eve was certainly a good day because the farm closed, and that was when we finally got a break. But I would say Christmas morning was always, it just felt more relaxing, I think. I kind of joke about this, but my mom had more money in the month of December than any other month of the year. And so Christmas morning was pretty good because she had the love of shopping. And then also, just because this was a second income for our family, it wasn't the primary source of income. So it was kind of Christmas mornings were pretty big, to say the least.
Yeah, like bonus time is great.
Yeah. But now with our family, Christmas Eve is kind of fun. We do it with friends traditionally, and we play Twister as adults.
Oh, awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, yeah. Andrew, Christmas Eve or Christmas morning?
Man, both have so many great memories. One, like Christmas Eve, we would, growing up, went to a church service with my parents and we sang candlelight hymns, and that was great. But Christmas morning, there's something special about the Christmas tree made from cinnamon rolls that my dad would make. Coffee. It's the slowest morning of the year. We just take everything with great pause. Everybody opens presents individually, like it's not one big free for all. I choose Christmas morning.
Okay. That's
Rachel?
good. I don't know if I can pick. I think we never really lived close to family, so we would always travel during Christmas to go see extended family. And so my Christmas Eve was typically like my mom's side of the family, the Italians. And then Christmas morning was with my dad's, who is his side of the family is much smaller. And so I love them both, but for different reasons. Now, similarly, we don't have extended family. Well, my husband's family's here, but my parents aren't. So Christmas never looks the same. Last year we skied on Christmas morning though, and that was
delightful,
phenomenal. Like it was great. 1000%, if I could afford to ski every Christmas morning, that would be what we do. It's pretty magical. Santa Claus skiing down the slopes and handing gifts out to kids and parents is pretty fun. So I vote being able to afford to go to Park City every Christmas, but we'll see if that happens again.
So Bryan, I need gift ideas big time. So do you have a favorite present that you've ever given or received?
Ooh, a favorite gift idea. No, that I
just need help. I need a lot of help right now.
Well, I would say I do too, because one of the things that also happened in my family that's made it harder as I've gotten older is that my mom filled our stockings full of gifts. Like they weren't junk. It was like intentional gifts. And so my wife, when we got married, she was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not doing that. And so she's like, if you want to continue that, that's up to you. So that has become kind of my tradition that I'm continuing to do, but it takes a long time to intentionally buy these gifts to fill these stockings, especially, I don't know how old your kids are, but my kids are middle school and high school. And so it's like the things that they want are like hundreds of dollars. It's not
That's right.
they're not satisfied with little things here and there. So
their stockings are huge. Yeah.
Their stockings are massive.
Yeah. I think though, we're kind of at that point where it's more experiences that we're trying to give. So, like the Park City trip, like we're more into doing experiential type things as gifts, just because, this stuff accumulates and it's not going to last, but we're looking at just how many more like summers and how many more spring breaks and how many more fall breaks we have with our kids.
That's right.
So, trips and experiences seem to be kind of more top of mind for us these days.
Yeah, we are the same. We've said that this year. We're just like, we have 3 kids who all have way more than they could ever need or want. And so what are the things that will last longer than the toy that they put down in 3 weeks? Because it's not fun anymore. So yeah, totally. Good question.
What's our challenge of the week?
Challenge of the week is to follow and DM your local representatives. We think it's really important to know people who are making decisions on your behalf or who are kind of looking at your local area to help it grow or change. And so they're really in service to you. And so if they don't hear from people and what matters, then it's hard for them to make decisions, at least with you in mind. So get to know everybody, make your voice heard, but also see how you can be helpful too. You can't complain if you're not going to be involved.
Yeah. And just follow Bryan and DM him all the time. There you go.
Yeah.
He likes people. Yeah, I'm really excited to follow on social media if you've done that. I'm kind of a non-poster.
Bryan, we attended a luncheon last week and we heard a lot about the planned growth for Williamson County. What do you think the current residents should lean into? What should we know more about the future?
Well, you all hit it on the head with your challenge of the week of just getting to know your local leaders, like who's in charge, whether that be from school board members to your board of mayor and alderman, county mayor, whoever it is. Just get to know those people. They listen, they care. Most of them are in office because they have a passion for it. And so I just always recommend that. I can't emphasize that enough. Just get involved, get to know your leaders, and they're completely accessible. It's easy.
I think that's really good tip, and just something to know that they are accessible. I think we have this view that they're like kind of untouchable and that you can't go talk to them. And that's the opposite. They need to hear from you, and you need to be involved. Like we were saying, like it really matters. So if there's a concern you have or an idea, those are the people that will help either mitigate the concern or see maybe that idea is really great for your community.
Yeah, and just be curious. Be curious about your community. Be curious about the candidates that are in those roles of, why they're there. And that sometimes will help you, just make better decisions and have a better view of your community as a whole. We at Williamson Chamber of Commerce host a monthly, it's called Policy Talks, and it's specifically designed to give access to our local leaders for our community to come and shake hands, get to know them, grab coffee, whatever that might be. And we just can't emphasize that enough of getting involved at that level.
I saw a map and my strategy brain started spinning. Should I be buying land or property inside those planned growth areas? Because part of me also said the areas that aren't planned for growth yet will be growth down the road. And so maybe I could buy property cheaper in those areas. What do you think? What's your strategy?
Well, as you know, Williamson County has just had explosive growth. I can use my own story, just moving here in 2009 and paying list price for our house. And in 2009 across the country, the housing market was crashing and I was losing thousands of dollars in my home before we moved here. And, our house has at least tripled since we've purchased in 2009. And, while we might be in a little bit of a slowdown, I don't think I'm going to go back to where I was, when I bought in 2009. So from a growth perspective, you heard there's some very intentional things that are being put in place to handle the growth, but also to preserve what we do have here. The reality is that we have, last I checked, it was 2.3% unemployment rate. It's one of the lowest in the country. We just had an announcement last week of a company, Landmark Recovery, that's bringing 1,300 jobs to Williamson County. We did a ribbon cutting for this week for a company out of Chicago that has 5 employees, and they at least want to staff up to 40 by the end of this year. So I think the reality is that we have jobs and people want to be employed. So they're likely going to be moving here. And so that in itself, it kind of gives you a snapshot of, I think anywhere in the county is probably going to be a good investment for you, whether it's within the growth boundaries or it's in some of the more rural areas of the county. I know for myself, just there's streets here now that you never even drove down before, and you had no reason to drive down them. And now it takes you to, the grocery store or whatever, something new that's there that wasn't there before. So I think, just in real estate, it's more of a long-term play. Some of us have made a lot of money short-term, but typically it's a long-term play. So in my opinion, you can't go wrong purchasing a home in Williamson County. And the other thing too about that is education. Education, our school system, it's one of the top economic drivers for our county. People want to bring their kids here and put them in school. You heard at that event, where people were moving from out of state, having to pay tuition at private schools for their kids, moving here and realizing, but we don't need to pay $30,000 a year to have our kid in private schools because the public schools here are so solid. So I think your investments are strong here.
We had a guest on the podcast about a month or two ago. He's a wealth planner in the Nashville area. And he said 2 of the things, because, that's when the market was really, the interest rates were starting to ramp up a couple months ago. And that's when he was a guest, and he was like, listen, like you said, it's a long-term play, but 2, look for the factors in your community. Like you said, unemployment. And if businesses are still wanting to move to the area, then you can pretty much be sure that your real estate investment is a solid one. And that you're in a market and where that's going to continue. Like you said, it might not be 25% equity gains in a year, right, but it probably is still going to be 7 or 8, which is still higher than the national average. So I think those are really good points to keep reiterating to people who are a little nervous about entering the market. now's really the best time because, as we've said, rates are probably not going to go down in the next year. And so you're going to be paying someone's mortgage rate. It might as well be yours. Like you're either paying the one of your landlord or you're going to pay the one for yourself and really earn back some of that in the equity that you're going to earn. So that's a great point to make.
Yeah, and also you have to, recognize that there's other parts. You get insulated here, and you think that this is just how life is, and everything's like this. But you can go to some other places where there's not jobs, and the market is not thriving, or housing prices are way out of control, expensive, and this is actually cheaper for them. Like you have to get out to get yourself some perspective of what's really happening in the market as a whole, but especially just with real estate.
Yeah, agreed. We've talked about some of the greatest opportunities for Williamson County residents, I think, and the things that we should remember, like you said, the low unemployment, the fact that businesses are moving to the area, the great schools. But for realtors specifically, what are some ways that they can continue to learn from you? Like, so we know there's events like the one we attended last week, but are there additional things like that specifically for people who are interested in real estate, but also they're really the educators of the people who are moving here in a lot of ways. So what are things that you would like as the chamber representative for them to like be your little missionaries and like, here's the things we want you to tell the people in town?
My people, my little missionaries.
Your little missionaries.
Yeah.
Like, let's all align our communication strategy here.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of being involved in your community. And also just, I said it before, but being curious. And so I think it's really important as a realtor to be connected in your community, have a pulse on not just the real estate market, but to, volunteer at your schools, visit the tourist attractions, see the things that people are coming here to see, to really experience the culture beyond just kind of the real estate sector. I think something that drives me nuts, and I have my real estate license, so I can put myself in this bucket, but real estate agents that just don't hang out with real estate agents, I just think that's silly. And so, when they have these mixers and things and it's a bunch of real estate agents getting together, I'm like, but you don't have perspective of other industries and the other things that are here. So, people that are moving here are interested in the schools. They want to know information about that. They want to know social things that they can do. They want to know where they can get involved. They want to know all those things. And now as a real estate professional, your first and foremost is to, be there for your client on the real estate side of things. And you're not an expert in all those other areas, but it's sure helpful when you have some perspective from your own vantage point on those things. And, a lot of times you're selling a community, not just a house.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really great point.
So with that, is the factory getting remodeled, South Hall coming into town, what else out there should we start to get excited about? I am super excited about the factory.
Yeah.
Oh, well, the factory, I mean, for any of us that have lived here for any time have always wished that was something more than what it has been. And over the years it's ebbed and flowed, and it's been good, but yes, it's very exciting to kind of see what's happening. South Hall is unbelievable. If you haven't been out there yet, it's, I've toured it multiple times and feel oddly comfortable there, and just could see it's like one of those places like I could just live here. I don't need to go any further than this. But there's lots of things on the horizon, some of which I hesitate to throw out there. But there's talk of like a private airport coming to Williamson County, which would be huge. You think about the number of travelers that fly out of B&A. I know that Williamson County really carries the airport in so many respects. So that would be something that would be huge. Youth sports is big. Anytime we can get any sort of fields or courts or different things, that's something that has been talked about for years, as attracting more youth sports here, because a lot of our families are a lot of our kids are on club teams that are traveling out of state, out of the area. Whereas if we had something like that here, it'd be huge from a regional, especially a tourism perspective of bringing people into our county. But, there's always stuff happening. We've done almost 70 ribbon cuttings this year, which is just really unheard of. I mean, it's just, it might be a record for us. So, businesses are continuing to open and people are continuing to come visit, and it's a pretty amazing place.
I think you hit on a really good point that a lot of times we don't think about because we are bombarded by messages from CNN or Fox News about how the economy is going to all fall apart. And while there are implications on a national level for all economies, it's really important to remember our microeconomy and where we live, because I think we can be really fearful of the instability that's being preached. But depending on where you are, that might not be the case. So like you said, we have all this growth in the Middle Tennessee area, and that makes it a really great place to live and to do business.
Yeah. And, our strategy from an economic development standpoint is a lot of communities look at specific industries. They want tech, or they want healthcare, they want finance, and they are very industry specific. Our economic development strategy in Williamson County is we want your headquarters. So that's our strategy. So what you see is a diversification of industry here, so that, if we have one industry that suffers, it's not going to tank the region, necessarily. I grew up in Seattle where everybody worked at Boeing. And so when Boeing would have a rough year or they go on strike or something, it would devastate communities, devastate them. And we just don't have that here, which is a huge advantage for us. Just from an economic standpoint. So Middle Tennessee as a whole continues to be very resilient.
How can people get involved with the Williamson County Chamber or the chamber in there? How do we sign up? What is the step to go through? How do we do this?
Sure. So, we're a unique chamber of commerce in that we serve all 6 cities here in Williamson County. And we, like I said, the Office of Economic Development, we serve the entire county. So, we serve everyone. We're also a membership-driven organization. So people join the chamber. Businesses join as members. We have about 1,400 business members that represent, probably 10, 15,000 people, maybe even more as a whole. So, you can join the chamber for sure and get involved. I also, there's lots of other places in town to get connected. There's the Downtown Franklin Association for local businesses that are on our main street. There's other service organizations, just depends on what you're passionate about. I just feel like you at least need to be connected somewhere. Selfishly, I believe if you're a business here in Williamson County, yes, you should be a member of the chamber. We're doing great things on behalf of the entire county that benefit every business, whether you're a member or not. But, if you're not a member, then you don't receive those benefits. On a personal standpoint, I just think, there's power in being connected, especially in your local community. You just never know who you're going to meet, where you're going to meet them, and how you might be able to be connected or help connect them in some way. That's huge.
Yeah. All ships rise together. We like to say that a lot.
Yes.
And like you said, making friends with people in town. I don't want to say that you would just make friends to try to get something, but you never know when their opportunities would be there, and you can't really do that. There's not a better place than at some of these events that you guys are hosting to meet people, because otherwise you're like, I'm not going to go into every business and introduce myself. There's just no time for that. But when we're all together, it's easy to do. So it's really great tip. Okay. What have we not talked about today, Bryan, that you think is really important for our listeners to hear? Is there anything else you'd add?
No, I think the biggest thing for me is just, I'm going to say it again, is just be curious. Be curious about your community. Be curious about your schools. Be curious about your elected officials. It's very easy to, like you said, sit at home and watch CNN or Fox News and kind of hear about what's happening and then apply that through, to your local community. But I think it's a lot more beneficial if you just, get out of your house, go engage, go to a board of mayor and alderman meeting, go to a historic zoning planning commission meeting and get to know the people and just, see what's happening out there, and education wise too. Going to your kids' schools, volunteering, getting to know the teachers, finding out, think about how education has changed in the last couple of years, and what a huge blessing it is to have our teachers still there amidst, all the chaos and things that are there. So, how can we support them more? How can we encourage them and just, instead of, just kind of complaining about everything. So, I just can't emphasize getting involved and being curious.
That's a really good point. Also, sorry, I just interrupted Andrew, but I think a lot of times, like you said, we assign value to things like who the president is. And yes, that matters. But the your day-to-day life is affected more by the people that are local planners and Chamber of Commerce and school board than the president. I mean, I'm just going to say it. So we tend to blow off local elections, or we tend to blow off those things because it doesn't feel as if it carries as much weight because the people aren't telling us to care about it as much. But in reality, those things are really inherently more important to your day to day. So like Bryan said, let's put an exclamation point on that. Get involved. Know the people.
I at times find people I don't know intimidating, or especially government officials intimidating, walking into a chamber meeting intimidating. And what I have found is people are people, and people are very kind. And so for the most part, people will welcome you with open arms and no need to be intimidated. Go to the meetings.
Yeah. And I'm fortunate to get to do what I do for a living. So I'm out and about all the time. I'm always meeting new people. And so, but I'm also conscious of the fact that there's lots of people here that are new here that aren't connected or are intimidated by the crowd, or it seems like we all already know each other and are connected. Right. You might have even felt that at the event last week, that you didn't know anybody, but everybody else knew everybody. And so, I always encourage somebody just, sit down and just say, hey, Andrew, tell me your story. How'd you get here? That sort of thing. And then just start to engage with people in a way that is curious. Again, you're just trying to figure out their story and see if you can connect with them. And sometimes you will, and sometimes you won't, but that's a great way just to kind of get in there and, start the process of getting to know people.
It's a great word. Not that I'm going to always do a book review, but if you've not read The Curious Mind by Bryan Grazer, highly recommend it. So you are speaking the same language, a curious mind. All right. So we wrap with our local question of the day. Rachel Hills.
Okay. For people who have recently moved to Williamson County, what are some places or things that they should know about? We've covered South Hall, which we all are excited about. I don't know if Andrew's been there or not. I have not been there. I follow them on Instagram, and I am desperate to go and need to find time to do it. We've covered the factory, which I think even it's great now. There's some great places, but a year from now will be amazing. So what are some other things that we should know about?
Oh gosh, there's all kinds of things. There's, that's the thing about this county is so big and there's so many areas. So there's some great things in the rural areas. But a lot of times people just really focus on what's right here in Franklin and Brentwood in this little corridor. If you haven't been to Mill Creek Brewery in Nolensville, I think that's a great find. It's a bit of a trek if you don't live in the Nolensville area, but that's certainly a draw out there. We do have, through our Convention and Visitors Bureau, it's called Visit Franklin. Visit Franklin has kind of a brewery tour that you can take, brewery and distillery tour. So it'll take you places, out to Mill Creek, but it'll also take you out to Leaper's Fork Distillery, which is great in itself. If you haven't been out there, Leaper's Fork is just kind of a little gem. It's a little hidden gem that is a little bit surreal on most days. They've got little fire pits burning and you just kind of wander, and the pace of life is a little bit slower. That's always a fun one. But also, just getting out and seeing some of our parks. We have Harlansdale Farm in downtown Franklin, which is, what city has a park like that? That's an old historic farm that's been meticulously preserved and taken care of. There's so many. I think a lot of the rural areas, getting out to the Natchez Trace Parkway and the Bowie Nature Park out in Fairview, just things that people don't think about on a daily basis that are huge assets here in our community.
Those are great answers.
I agree with you on the distillery is a beautiful, peaceful spot. Mine is downtown Main Street, Franklin. All of the fun festivals. There's always a reason to go to downtown Franklin. If it's the art crawl or, Dickens Village or the Pumpkin Fest or 4th of July. Like there's always a festival that blocks off the street and it just feels like the entire community comes out and we all have a great time on Main Street. Rachel, you got something?
I don't live in Williamson County, so I feel like I'm not qualified to answer. I have at some point in my Nashville tenure here, but not currently. I just really like how Williamson County feels very nostalgic. It's like it is. There's a lot of things we should be excited about in terms of just growing. But I like how people have really worked to preserve the history of Williamson County because it is very historic. So just learning about all the things that have occurred in the past since the birth of our nation, honestly, in this area is really, I like history. So that's exciting to me. And there's a lot of it to be had. People who are used to Tennessee, we take that for granted, but I've lived all over the country and I'm here to tell you that Tennessee is definitely one of the prettiest places.
Beautiful. Yeah.
In the country. We have rolling hills, we have seasons. You mentioned the Natchez Trace Parkway. There's no better time of the year to drive that than right now because it's beautiful. So I love that it's all here.
This has been great. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. We appreciate it.
You bet. And now I didn't realize I was talking to a non-Williamson County person.
I know it.
I'm currently in Murfreesboro. Rutherford County has lots of great things too. Maybe we'll talk about that one day.
They do. But we got to figure out a way here to get you to Williamson County, to cross those county lines.
I've been working on that for years. Yeah.
I mean, who goes to Murfreesboro? That's so far away.
Bryan. We don't want to start that fight. How much did Andrew pay you to say that is really what I want to know.
I'm just going to let you know, Rachel, I have my real estate license and I'm happy to show you houses here in county.
Oh my gosh. As 17 of my realtor friends have a stroke and they're like, no, maybe one day. I don't know. I really love where we live right now. So it would be a hard move for us, but I never say never. If there is anything that I've ever learned in my life is to never say never, because every time I say it, I'm like, well, here we are 5 years later. And that thing I said I'd never do here, we're here.
Yep.
So
if you are also a real estate agent and need a little bit of help with your social media, we are here to do that for you. So kangaroos.com, $65 a month, and we have a discount code.
Yes. First month 50 gets you 50% off your first month subscription. First month spelled out 50. So first month 50.
All right, guys, we will see you next week.
See you next week.
All right. See y'all.